All right, Steph. How excited are we for this conversation?
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
This is
I gotta
going
take
to
off
be.
my gun. Sorry, you guys. Okay.
Is that what that is?
Is that your gun?
Yeah, that's my weapon. Yeah.
I
My
was
wife
just
just said, take it off.
I was just going to say this might be the most masculine dude we've ever talked to.
He's a
Steph.
stud. The fact that he
Literally.
took his gun off to have
Yes,
a conversation
that's a
with
first.
us.
In
It is our first.
173 episodes, that's a first. We're like, time out. Let me take my gun
Gotta
off.
take my gun off.
Well, friends, our
And that
next
was by
guest-
order of my bride. So
There you go. Well, friends, our next guest holds many titles, including soldier, master of mixed martial arts, weapons expert, author, child advocate, filmmaker, and he is the founder of All Things Possible, an organization that helps thousands of women, children, and members of the military find hope, healing, and faith. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to tell us a good story, Mr. Victor Marx.
Victor Marx! Oh, he's such a stud!
you guys, thanks. Thank you
Oh.
for having me. I appreciate this.
Well, thank you for saying yes to us. We're excited to talk to you.
No, first of all, I always have to say, because I get some amazing introductions like y'all, the problem is I have to live up to it. So, yeah, background in martial arts. I was a Marine, not a soldier. It means the same things to civilians, but not in the military group.
Okay.
Because we eat crayons and Army guys don't. So, but the president of our organization actually retired from the Army as a Delta operator with 1,000 missions.
Wow.
And he never lost a man. So best monster hunter I've ever worked with. And he's been on our team for quite some time, now in great leadership, and we're still getting it done. As a matter of fact, last week, we helped participate and facilitate getting 3 pedophiles here in the U.S. that
Wow.
to help save children. So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's
Anyway, you guys, so glad to be
amazing.
here.
Well, thank you. Well, let me share a quick story with you to start this off, Victor.
Yeah.
So a few weeks ago, actually it was like 2 months ago, you spoke at our church. So we're in Columbus, Ohio. You spoke at Faith Life Church at a men's conference on a Friday evening. Okay. And
I did.
yes, you did. I was not there. Okay. Well, during your conversation, I had multiple men in the service texting me and saying, you have got to talk to this guy, Victor Marx. And I was like, okay. They're like, look him up. Seriously, look him up. Like right now, you've got to talk to him. And I'm like, okay. So we weren't there, but that weekend I looked you up, started looking at YouTube channel, your website, all that. And I was immediately, as you can imagine, like, oh my gosh, yes, we need to reach out to Victor Marx. So I go to Steph and I said, okay, Steph, there's this man who spoke at our church this weekend. He goes by the name of Victor Marx, but I think in real life, he's Rambo.
That's all he needed to say.
And Steph was
I was
like,
like, yes.
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 Let's talk to that guy.
I want Rambo. And then you pop up on the screen just now, and I'm like, it is Rambo.
With an American flag behind him.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it.
The first question, do
Yeah.
you have any good stories from fighting ISIS or over in Iraq or fighting a guy in the airport? I don't know. Like, do you have any good stories?
Well, you know what? I've got so many. And we're currently working on a book that's going to be out next year. I got a really great engagement through Salem Publishing, and we're going to do a book. It's called The Dangerous Gentleman. But in doing this, I'm telling the guy helping me write it so many stories, and one that comes to mind that it's so unique. It's one of my first encounters with ISIS. Now, as a Christian high-risk missionary doing operations in Iraq, our mission, among other things, was help to relieve trauma, but we help facilitate a recovery or rescue of children or women that had been affected by ISIS or were in ISIS areas or the war area. And one night, it's after midnight in Mosul, hot beyond hot. You can hear gunfire. Battles are still going on. We're in a little position in a little safe house, which just meant it was a bombed out house where we had people surrounding it in case ISIS got to us. But when I walked out, there's a few Iraqi soldiers pounding this ISIS fighter. This guy looked at me and I looked at him, and I had my dog with me. And instantly I thought, man, this guy, you could tell he would rather cut my head off than anything. And he has his hands behind his back, and he literally was just fuming. And I thought, well, let's see what God actually has in store. And that's a moment we as humans have to either submit ourselves to God, or you pull out your gun and shoot somebody in the face that actually deserves it, but is it God's will? And I felt like God was saying, talk to him and pray for him. I was like, wow, okay. So I got my terp. Asked the guys, could you stop beating him for a second? I'm like, General, I want to talk to this guy. And all of a sudden, I got to tell you, I felt a level of grace that I normally, it's just supernatural, because the amount of torture and abuse and killings that ISIS has done, that we would see their carnage. And now I'm looking at this guy who literally is a commander in ISIS. And I felt the grace of God. And I just said, hey, I want to talk to you about a few things. So we did. I said, have you ever met an American? He's like, nope. I said, you ever met a Christian? He goes, no. I said, why do you want to kill me? And he said, I don't know. And one thing led to another, where I said, tell me about your family. He told me he had daughters. And the conversation boiled down to this. I said, you know you're going to die here pretty quick. Do you know what happens to you when you die? And he said, inshallah, which is Islam's way of God's will, whatever God wants. And I said, do you mind if I tell you my understanding and what I would call my security of salvation? That when I die, because I could die going around a corner 5 minutes from now. And he goes, yeah. So I actually shared my faith with this ISIS commander who's got his hands tied behind his back. He's sitting in a Indian position because he's a combative, criminal that we now have. And at the end, I'm like, do you want to have that same assurance I do? And he said, yes. So now I start praying with him to receive Christ. And it's all surreal because you can still hear shooting in the background, but it's just we're in a bubble case. Then, right when I got to the end of praying with him and said, in Jesus' name, he wouldn't say, in Jesus' name. He stopped, shook his head no, and listen to me. As sure as I'm talking to y'all, his face contorted.
What?
And I literally saw a demon just go whoomp on this man, and he embodied evil. It was unreal. He broke out of his hand ties, and instantly my dog goes for him, the jugular hand. I'm like, 9 off. And then the Iraqi soldiers come over. They pin him down. And I'm like, what in the world? I'm this close to just finishing a prayer. And so they bind him up. He struggles. They tie him up again. They're like, what do you want us to do? I said, leave him right there. And then I saw this demonic thing leave him, and his face came back to normal. And I said, hey, just evil king. He's like, yeah.
Really?
I said, yeah. I'm like, dude, I said, let me just tell you, I know that there's a strong presence on you, and you've yielded to evil, and the enemy will take advantage of that. But I said, what would you want me to say to any young men being radicalized, thinking about coming to ISIS? His words from his lips to my ears, he said, tell them don't come to the darkness. Don't come to the darkness. And then I told him, I said, look, there's no way God brought me here from America in Mosul during fighting to share faith with you. I said, you can always turn to Christ, just like the thief on the cross. You can always call out on his name and you will be saved. And he actually thanked me and left. And I'm sitting there kind of stunned. And then in a funny way, to me, my personal security, he's Iraqi. He's close as a brother to me. He looks at me and said, hey, boss, I'm very sorry. I seen him break out of his ties. And he goes, I was going to shoot him in the face, but I wait because you were saying the very nice things to him. And I'm like, Hassan, thank you for not shooting him. in the face while I'm praying.
While you're praying.
Yeah. Can you imagine? And Jesus. Really?
All right. So, Victor, for all of our guests, I like to give a
Yeah.
list of fun facts, all right, to let listeners and Steph know what you've done, what you've accomplished, okay? So keep me honest on this. And Steph only knows this very first fun fact. The rest, Victor, you're going to see her genuine reaction, okay? All right. So, fun fact number 1, Victor. Steph, he is officially the world's fastest gun disarmer.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
okay, go ahead.
You saw the videos.
Yes. They're amazing.
He holds the record, Steph, at 0.08 seconds of disarming someone. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So, Victor, I saw a video where you have an audience member come up, hey, point this gun at me, and then you disarm them. Okay? So, the first thing is, how do you decide who the volunteer is? Are you looking for, like, the toughest looking dude out there?
The cockiest looking guy.
To bring on stage? How do you handle that?
Yes. That's the,
yeah, you do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you know where I perfected the skill was in youth prisons. My wife and I would travel. I could bring a training pistol in, and I'd have 40 gang members looking at me and hating. And I knew, well, I've got 2 minutes to hook them, or I'm, it ain't going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Right. So I would say, hey, I need a volunteer. I'll let you hold a gun to my head and pull the trigger and see it. So obviously they're just
everyone's raising their hand.
Yeah. I picked the toughest, the baddest one, and which will win the audience over if you do it. He comes up, and literally what I would do, and people can watch, is I pull the hammer back on the pistol.
Okay.
Let them put their finger on the trigger and point it at me. With my hands down, I tell them, all you have to do is pull the trigger. The hammer will fall and you win. So with my hands down, I'll disarm them, meaning take the weapon and pull out the magazine and point the weapon back at them at 0.8 of a second. And that's why it's the world record. So what you'll see is, gang members pulling the trigger in the air while the pistol's actually being pointed at them. It's the funniest thing. And typically they'll be using great potty mouth words. But yeah, I mean, from gang members to Delta operators to football players to cowboys it doesn't matter. It's just something I feel like God gave me speed to do. But I will say this, because people are always impressed with that, hundreds of millions of views. I did it. My wife recorded the first one on a flip phone in a youth prison.
Okay.
I mean, I've been doing it for decades, but that was the first one recorded. And the reason I do it is to make people go, whoa, why? And then I tell them, this is why I do it. Because at 7 years old, my stepfather put me in a chair, pulled out a revolver with rounds, pulled the hammer back, and he would tap it to the side of my head. And he says, boy, if you ever tell anybody what I've done, I'll blow your brains out. And I'll tell them you shot yourself. And as a 7-year-old kid, I fantasized in my mind, one day I will be so fast, no one will be able to put a pistol to my head without me taking it away.
Oh, that's good. You know what's so interesting about that? Like, I watched the videos, and I watched these guys, and I was like, why are they still, pointing a fake gun? But it's because it's their finger, and I never understood why they were still standing there.
It's literally boom, boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boom, boom.
And they're just like this. I'm like, why are you doing? He has the gun. Why are you still,
Victor,
clicking it?
Do you have any friends that are like, you're not going to be able to get this away from me? Good luck. It's not happening.
Like SEAL guys, Delta ops.
Yes.
So I would say 99.9% no.
Okay.
But last year, I had a guy come here, former Green Beret. He's one of the most well-known war correspondents. We've gone to the Darien Gap together. And he goes, hey, I want to learn that. I said, okay. He said, let me do it first. So I did it. And when I did it, I didn't get the weapon from him. And he did pull the trigger, but it was right here.
Okay.
And I remember going, and then I ripped it from him. I said, what's going on? And he smiled. He goes, I've studied every one of your videos.
No.
He said, I've studied them. And he goes, I know your tell sign. And it was actually the dilation of my eyes. My eyes will dilate a nanosecond before I move because it's a result of adrenaline. I can release adrenaline in my body that allows for the speed. And he goes, I figured it out. I watched. He said, so all I was doing was watching your eyes. And as soon as I saw them starting to dilate, he says, I gripped down and pulled the trigger as fast, not waiting for you. I said, sneaker.
Wow.
Good.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
But this was also a guy who killed a guy in a bar fight, beat him to death. And, because the other guy was a bad guy.
Okay, so Victor, you have inspired me when I watched that video, or all these videos of you disarming people. So I have decided that I'm using that same technique when I walk into a room here at my house to disarm our kids when they have the remote control to the TV. So
Nice.
like this
morning,
our 5-year-old son had the remote on the TV, and I came in and boom, boom, ripped it out of his hands. Same method as you. Okay. So then I was like, Steph,
You're welcome.
yes, thank you. I was like, Steph, I've got this new trick. Come here. And so I gave you the remote.
So here's the thing. I've been watching him. I watch what he's doing. I've watched him watching you, and I'm like, I know what he's doing. So you always have them pointing the gun at you. So I might have pointed it about 10 inches lower than his chest. And
Changes.
then he's like,
changes
so
things.
then he got mad. He's like, no. That's not how Victor does it.
You gotta point it at my face.
He's like, point to my face. I'm like, that's not where I'm pointing it.
No, you're pointing it to my crotch. Don't point it on my crotch. Point it at my head. And then I did it, boom, boom, and I smacked the remote, and it went across the room. So I didn't grab it, but I did.
But
disarm
still, yeah, I've sent a few weapons flying,
Okay.
and that is, so that's hilarious. That's great.
Yes, so I'm using that on our kids now, Victor, to get the TV remote control from them.
Awesome.
All right, second fun fact, Steph. Last month, Victor spoke down in Florida at Mar-a-Lago in front of President Trump. So, Victor, what was that like? You've spoken to thousands of people, but speaking in front of President Trump, did you get nervous? And did you bring him on stage and give him a gun?
Yes, did you give him a gun?
Yes, please tell me you gave him a gun and disarmed him.
Well, I can tell you this. I know he was in the house because you can tell when Secret Service comes in.
Oh, true.
And
yes.
It's literally, we had brought weapons down there for a raffle.
Okay.
I was raffling off for a fundraiser, and the steps they go through, it's unreal. Even we had to pull the firing pin from the weapons that we brought down for security and safety. But yeah, his kids were there. Caitlin, Bruce Jenner was there. We met some amazing people. He came in and out, and really, it was not long after he had been indicted.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, he just threw a punch to the crowd of like, if we don't do something, we're going to lose our nation. So yeah, it really took people by wonderful surprise, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I had to be down there with so many really great people, great patriots. So yeah,
I bet. Okay, so that's a no, Steph. He did not.
He did not disarm the president.
He did not disarm the president.
He did not disarm President Trump.
Negative. We got to know our left and rights. We got to know our limitations.
That's true. All right, Steph. This year, like he mentioned, will mark 35 years of marriage. So he's a father to 5, proud grandfather to 5 granddaughters. Okay. So, Victor, can you share the story? And I love this story of you were telling I believe it was your brother, that you're getting married, and he was questioning why, how's the intimacy, and you described your wife in terms of a vehicle, right? Can you share that story with Steph? As I love this. Yeah,
absolutely. It's I'm a new Christian, so is my wife. So when we met, started dating, then got engaged, we committed to wait. We'd both been in the world before, and we didn't like that approach. So we said, well, let's try it the Bible way. So we're going to wait until we're married before we have intimacies. And so my brother, I'm engaged, and my brother, who I respect and looked up to, and he goes, hey, man, how is she? And I said, how is she what? He goes, how is she in bed? And I'm like, hey, you heathen, that I am trying to live this Christian life and I'm committed to wait. He's like, oh, brother. He goes, I know you got the Jesus thing going and that's all good. He said, but how do you know if you're not compatible? If you get married and you never slept with her. And for a minute, I was like, oh, gosh. I didn't think about that. I was like, and then, again, I'm a young Christian. And I'm fresh out of the Marine Corps, so I'm pretty direct about everything. And I said, well, God, he's got a point. How do I handle this? And instantly, he just gave me an anecdotal story. And I just said, brother, you like Ferraris, don't you? He said, well, yeah, because he's a car collector. My brother did really good in the oil field business, so he had money. He didn't know it, stupid money. He didn't know what to do with it. So he bought cars, all these fancy cars. And I said, hey, man, if we went down to the Ferrari dealership here in Houston, you can walk in the showroom floor and get any Ferrari you want for free. They'll give you the title and the keys. All you have to do is just take it graciously and leave, but you can't test drive it. Would you do it? He goes, yeah. I said, no test drive. He goes, no, I'd take the car. I said, I found me a Ferrari, brother. I don't have to test drive nothing.
Oh.
How good is that?
Oh, that's good.
That's really good.
And
that is such a great explanation. Such a good explanation.
And we don't hear these truths because I'm still the only one in my family that met and married, waited till we were married, to be intimate. And we've never cheated and obviously not divorced. No one else in my family has had that distinct privilege and honor. So I think there's sometimes God wants to show off of what he can do in someone's life if we just trust and obey him to his commands. And so my brother, bless his heart, he went to heaven 3 days before Christmas last year. And I miss him. He was my best friend. But yeah, when our race is done, it's done.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
So we talked about your incredible wife. I've got to bring up, I want to hear the story about her in Syria.
The Syria or Iraq?
No, you said Syria. Yeah.
It's Syria.
Mrs. Rambo, yes.
Okay. We actually did a marriage conference in Iraq. Eileen and I did the first ever marriage conference in Iraq. Never been done before. Because they don't address marriage issues or that's all private. People said, first of all, no one will come out. Second of all, ISIS will know where you are. So we feel like supposed to do it. Over 300 people showed up to this. How many languages were there? 4 languages being translated.
Oh my gosh.
I tell pastors here and counselors, hey, you think you have hard marriage counseling? Wait till you talk to a guy who has 3 wives.
Okay, I have a question. I want to go back to the whole Syria thing. You have no weapons but your tomahawk. You have 1 dog. Are you guys constantly in prayer? Like, are you being led by God?
That's it. That's the right insight and question. And the answer is yes. We had a secret weapon on that trip. So it was one of my wife's friends. We're close friends with Gary and Kelly Wilkerson. Gary is the son to David Wilkerson, who had the New York church in Times Square and Carlson Switchblade.
Yep.
And they lead his father's ministry after his dad passed. But Kelly felt like she was supposed to go with us. Now, Kelly, at the time, 60 years old. So I meet with Gary and her, and I'm like, hey, Gary, this ain't a little mission trip. This ain't a little photo op. Your wife can be captured or killed. I said, and we fight. We've had to shoot our way into stuff and out of. We've had mortars dropped on us. We've had to hide 3 days from ISIS. I said, this is all real. And Gary, without even flinching, he goes, oh, well, she prayed and felt like the Lord is saying go. So I support her. Zero fear. Zero. So Kelly is an intercessor, a worshiper and intercessor. And I'll tell you, we would be coming up to a roadblock or, trying to get paperwork, trying to get through. And Kelly would just be praying quietly. Or then she'd worship the Lord and we would get through. It's beyond comprehension. And then my wife's faith, I'll just tell you this. There was one point we were not in a good spot on a mission. And I start praying and my wife's next to me. And I'm like, Lord, please send a legion of angels. We need some warring angels because it's bad. And so I kind of petitioned the Lord like that. And then Eileen, she just goes, Lord, would you please send the one angel who killed the 186,000 Assyrians that one time? Could you please dispatch them to us right now? We just need one experienced veteran angel. And I went, I changed my prayer. I like that one better. Send the seasoned operator who's smoked 186,000 bad guys. So, yeah, prayer makes a difference. I mean, it really, because as one Delta operator, active Delta operator, asked our president, who's head of operations too, he says, hey, is all that stuff that Victor Marx and them talk about on social media, they don't actually do all that. I mean, that can't be real. And Jeff Teagues, who 1,000 Missions, he goes, it's real. I've been with them. It's unbelievable because we don't have a quick reactionary force. We don't have drones. It's all, okay, God, if you guide, you'll provide. The mission will be accomplished based on your will. But what we have done, y'all, we've resigned ourselves that if death is part of living for the Lord and martyrdom is his will, we don't question it. It's not our will to question. We just, the Bible says they overcame the enemy, the devil, by the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony. And that one other thing that many people talk about, they didn't love their life until the end. I mean, it's like, hey, God, if you want to take us, that's fine. It's like my wife said one time, as I was getting ready to go into a really bad situation, and she was at the safe house, actually with our own kids. Our kids were there. I said, babe, this one's a bad one. And I just said, are you ready to become, if something goes sideways, are you ready to become a widow for the gospel? And that's a very hard conversation. You feel it. And she looked at me and she said a few things. One, how long are we here for anyway? What's the worst that can happen if we die? We still win. And then regarding me going to do this mission, she goes, I'd rather be a widow than married to a coward. Now go get that kid.
What?
I'm just like, I going, does this woman have Spartan blood in her? What is going on?
Unbelievable.
All right, Steph, final fun fact. I had a lot more. We have more questions. Maybe we'll have them back another time because this is so much fun.
I'll come back. You guys are fun as all get out. I'll bring my bride with me.
Yes, Mrs. Rambo.
That would be fantastic.
Mr. and Mrs. Rambo.
Yes.
Love it.
All right. This year marks 20 years that Victor has served in the ministry. He is the founder of All Things Possible, an organization that exists to identify, interrupt, and restore folks who have been affected by trauma. So, Victor, can you please tell us more about your organization?
Thank you. An easier way for people to kind of understand it, I just tell them this. We set captives free, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And whether it's a kinetic, facilitating, operational deal, like we do what's called skull games, and that's when analysts come together using open source intelligence gathering, and we can have up to 50 or 60 people at one time. And we're hunting for missing people. We're hunting for people being trafficked. We're hunting for predators. And then we put together target packages right here in the U.S. and then serve them to law enforcement agencies. And then girls are found, girls are rescued, kids, bad guys are captured, guys go to prison. And we do it very effectively. So I know a lot of people want, and maybe it's because of others in this space try to make things a little too sexy. It's like, or even folklore of me rappelling upside down with a K-bar and my knife to rescue a child, and I'm like, actually, I fell out of a helicopter. And I just encourage people to go to our website, atpministries.org or victormarx.com. It's an education into really what counter sex trafficking and counter pedophile work is. We actually have online courses a person can go through in an afternoon and really learn what it's about. So that's one. The other is we developed these Lion and Lambs. These are trauma healing toys. There's the touch is it helps soothe. The music is specific prayers in them, and it helps children lower anxiety. And we've helped. How many would y'all say now? 35,000 last year.
Wow.
But we're probably close to 100,000 kids. And we even see adults who, from here in the U.S., police cars holding them when they go up on a scene, giving it to a kid, to ISIS children that we brought it to the camp holding it, or associate teams giving it to kids. It is one of the easiest, most effective ways to help with the psychological aspect and even spiritual. And then there are times where, we have safe houses where we're constantly bringing girls in who have been abused or trafficked or have to be hidden, and we take care of them. I did a quick pump to Cambodia back, me and one other fella, because we have a safe house, really well-run, effective safe house. And this young girl, like 15 years old, was attacked in her village, stabbed in her neck, face, back. I have photos and a video. They did the recovery of her, saved her life by doing medical bandage and emergency care, got her to a little clinic. She ended up living. And then we got there, and me and one other fella confirmed the capture of the guy who did it within 72 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
And then the girl ended up coming to our safe house and seeing other girls who had been rescued or recovered or helped, them loving Jesus because it's a Buddhist country, and going, what is all this? Miraculous stories like that happen all the time. And I think of the scripture, God is ordained. He's ordained good works for us to do. So, I talk to wealthy people who are like, I want more than just money. I go, well, why don't you support organizations that are actually doing the deal? You don't have to try to reinvent the wheel and start your own. I said, find those who are doing it, support it. And I talk to people who go, well, I don't know what I could do. In our games to hunt bad guys, do you know some of our best hunters are those that used to be hunted?
Oh.
Girls who were trafficked. And they turn out to be unbelievable. And
wow.
There are a lot of other things we do, but my wife and I are still passionate about setting captives free, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Love evangelism. I just got back from Cuba not long ago, speaking to 600 pastors in an oppressed country. So we'll continue to do this work as long as God gives us breath. Good folks out there who realize, hey, $5 can help us do what we do, to the gazillionaires who need to put money somewhere and get a reward in heaven. So, and we're grateful for people's prayers.
Well, listeners, for more information about Victor or to help support his ministry, you can go to his websites, like he mentioned, victormarx.com. I am victormarx.com. Also, I would highly recommend to check out his Instagram account at Victor Marx. Hands down, one of the best social media accounts that I've seen.
Oh, thank you.
Hands down,
It's
Victor.
really
It is
good.
phenomenal. So, two things, Victor, before we end this conversation. One, I want to compliment you on the example that you give men like myself, husbands like myself, and how you talk about your wife. I've seen it on stage. I've seen it video clips on stage. I've seen it on your social media, how you honor your wife, you admire your wife, how you compliment her. Hands down, such a great example. Such a great example to other men. The second thing that comes to my mind as you're talking is just when you think about your life as the definition of what the enemy meant for evil, God will turn it for good. And just blows my mind how all this trauma, catastrophic things take place in your life, how you have turned it around to help free thousands of other people. So God bless you, sir. And Steph and I absolutely will be praying for you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you. You know what? I appreciate this new friendship. And we want to get you out to our training center and train you guys.
Oh my gosh.
We literally can work with you on jujitsu, gun disarm, blade work. We have a shoot house where we teach husband and wives to clear their own home. You know, we teach you to fight back to back, not nose
Seriously?
to nose. That's our secret. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We'll fly y'all out here and do it. You just tell us when.
Shut up!
Done deal.
Is this in Colorado? In Colorado Springs?
Colorado Springs. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, Steph.
Oh,
hey, what?
My God.
So I'm going to keep practicing the gun disarm. I'll keep practicing that on my kids.
Yeah, you do
Victor.
that, babe. You do that. Oh, that
would be
yes.
a hard yes.
Hard yes.
Absolutely. We'll work with the team on that, Victor.
And then we'll do video footage of y'all, and y'all will love it. You'll have a blast. We'll hang out. We got a guest place for you right here on the training ground.
Victor,
okay, good.
Victor, that would be fantastic.
That would be amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. And done.
Oh
Victor.
my gosh!
Victor, sir.
Oh my!
Listen,
you have propelled yourself.
I was expecting you to be good.
Oh,
dude.
Oh,
that was even better than I was
I
thinking.
have so many questions to ask you. And Kevin kept kicking me like we need to wrap it up. I'm like, he doesn't need to work out. Look at him.
Hey, Victor.
He's fine.
We have these little cues to each other, like who's going to talk, and our cue is you tap each other on the foot, right? Because you can't see it. Well, Steph has been stomping on my foot for the past 45 minutes, and I'm like, Steph, let me get in a question here. I've got fun facts.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Amazing.
So good.
Amazing. Thank you.
Well, you guys, it's really because of y'all. You know, I do interviews all the time. We're super selective. We have to say no because of my time constraints.
I bet, yeah.
But this was a great fit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all are very good at what you do, and it was pure joy for me.
Oh. Well, you don't know how much that means, Victor.
Yeah.